Alright, so today we shall practice English conversations. But first, here are a few examples where we shall learn that what would be a question to a given statement. Example 1. She decides to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she decide to do? Example 2. She avoided doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she avoid doing? Example 3. She needed to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she need to do? Example 4. She resisted doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she resist doing? Example 5. She delayed doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she delay doing? Example 6. She wanted to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she want to do? Example 7. She practiced doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she practice doing? Example 8. She disliked doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she dislike doing? Example 9. She expected to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she expect to do? Example 10. She finished doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she finish doing? Example 11. She promised to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she promise to do? Example 12. She suggested doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she suggest doing? Example 13. She intended to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she intend to do? Example 14. She advised doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she advise doing? Example 11. She refused to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she refuse to do? Example 16. She enjoyed doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she enjoy doing? Example 17. She put off doing that. Now the question to this would be, what did she put off doing? Example 18. She offered to do that. Now the question to this would be, what did she offer to do? Now let's do quite the opposite. First, we shall read the questions, then we will learn what would be the answer to those questions. Example 1. What did he want? Now the reply to this would be, he wanted to do that. Example 2. What did he avoid? Now the reply to this would be, he avoided doing that. Example 3. What did he refuse? Now the reply to this would be, he refused to do that. Example 4. What did he finish? Now the reply to this would be, he finished doing that. Example 5. What did he decide? Now the reply to this would be, he decided to do that. Example 6. What did he promise? Now the reply to this would be, he promised to do that. Example 7. What did he resist? Now the reply to this would be, he resisted doing that. Example 8. What did he need? Now the reply to this would be, he needed to do that. Example 9. What did he advise? Now the reply to this would be, he advised doing that. Example 10. What did he practice? Now the reply to this would be, he practiced doing that. Example 11. What did he suggest? Now the reply to this could be, he suggested doing that. Example 12. What did he expect? Now the reply to this would be, he expected to do that. Example 13. What did he delay? Now the reply to this could be, he delayed doing that. Example 14. What did he enjoy? Now the reply to this could be, he enjoyed doing that. Example 15. What did he intend? Now the reply to this could be, he intended to do that. Example 16. What did he dislike? Now the reply to this could be, he disliked doing that. Example 17. What did he offer? Now the reply to this could be, he offered to do that. Example 18. What did he put off? Now the reply to this could be, he put off doing that. Now here are a few examples where we shall learn how to say something in a different manner, or how a statement can be said differently. Example 1. It's essential to continue. Now, if you want to explain the same thing in a different wording, we can also say, continuing is essential. Now it fulfills the purpose of the first statement. Example 2. It'll be important to start. Now we can also say, starting will be important. Example 3. It hasn't been pleasant to work. Now this can also be said as, working hasn't been pleasant. Example 4. It was necessary to succeed. Now this can also be said as, succeeding was necessary. Example 5. It shouldn't be foolish to try. Now this can be also said as, trying shouldn't be foolish. Example 6. It can be dangerous to proceed. Now this can be also said as, proceeding can be dangerous. Example 7. It won't be absurd to go back. Now this can be also said as, going back won't be absurd. Example 8. It was only sensible to apologize. Now this can be also said as, apologizing was only sensible. Example 9. It isn't very fair to complain. Now this can be also said as, complaining isn't very fair. Example 10. It'll be rather helpful to watch. Now this can be also said as, watching will be rather helpful. Example 11. It's been very convenient to observe. Now this can be also said as, observing has been very convenient. Example 12. It would be dishonest to compete. Now this can be also said as, competing would be dishonest. Example 13, it must have been hard to choose. Now this can be also said as choosing must have been hard. Example 14, it won't be practical to go ahead. Now this can be also said as going ahead won't be practical. Example 15, it would have been selfish to stop. Now this can also be said as stopping would have been selfish. Example 16, it used to be impossible to rest. Now this can also be said as resting used to be impossible. Example 17, it's been delightful to travel. Now this can also be said as traveling has been delightful. Example 18, it must be wonderful to relax. Now this can also be said as relaxing must be wonderful. Example 19, it shouldn't have been hard to win. Now this can also be said as winning shouldn't have been hard. Example 20, it'll be quite unpleasant to wait. Now this can also be said as waiting will be quite unpleasant. Now here are a few more similar kind of examples. Example 1, it'll be interesting to observe that. Now this can also be said as observing that will be interesting. Example 2, it's boring to memorize things. Now this can also be said as memorizing things is boring. Example 3, it's been pleasing to have them. Now this can also be said as having them has been pleasing. Example 4, it was thrilling to recall that. Now this can also be said as recalling that was thrilling. Example 5, it can be annoying to hear that. Now this can also be said as hearing that can be annoying. Example 6, it was satisfying to try it once. Now this can also be said as trying it once was satisfying. Example 7, it's really astonishing to realize it. Now this can also be said as realizing it is really astonishing. Example 8, it'll be amazing to watch them. Now this can also be said as watching them will be amazing. Example 9, it must be amazing to compare them. Now this can also be said as comparing them must be amazing. Example 10, it could be disturbing to see that. Now this can also be said as seeing that could be disturbing. Example 11, it's irritating to put up with that. Now this can also be said as putting up with that is irritating. Example 12, it'll be reassuring to examine them. Now this can also be said as examining them will be reassuring. Example 13, it was shocking to comprehend that. Now this can also be said as comprehending that was shocking. Example 14, it should be inspiring to attend one. Now this can also be said as attending one should be inspiring. Example 15, It's been disappointing to find it out. Now, this can also be said as finding it out has been disappointing. Example 16. It's startling to see one suddenly. This can also be said as seeing one suddenly is startling. Now, here are a few sample conversations where we shall learn how we can ask or say about different things using the similar or same kind of conversation. I'll be in Europe by next week. There are lots of things to see there. I hope to see as much as possible. Have a good time. Now, instead of this conversation, we can also use something else. I'll be in Europe by next week. There are a lot of things to do on the continent. I plan to do as much as possible. Have a good time. Now let's try changing again. I'll be in Europe by next week. There are a lot of things to enjoy in that area. I want to enjoy as much as possible. Have a good time. Now let's again change it. I'll be in Europe by next week. There are lots of things to take pictures of. I expect to use my camera as much as possible. Have a good time. Now let's again change it. I'll be in Europe by next week. There are lots of things to get interested in. I intend to travel around as much as possible. Have a good time. Now here's another similar kind of example. Are you looking for me? Yes. Have you finished filling out your application yet? Just the first 2 pages. Please try to finish everything by tonight. Now in this conversation, let's try to say something else. Are you looking for me? Yes. Have you finished writing your daily report yet? Just the essential details. Please try to finish everything by tonight. Let's try something else now. Are you looking for me? Yes. Have you finished looking over the figures? Just the important statistics. Please try to finish everything by tonight. Now let's again change to something else. Are you looking for me? Yes. Have you finished checking the 2 lists yet? Just the first one. Please try to finish everything by tonight. Now here's another similar kind of example. Why are you so unhappy about your assistant? Well, she always avoids doing her share. Does she want to find another job? I'm afraid she does. Now here, let's try something else. Why are you so unhappy about your assistant? Well, she always advises changing everything. Does she ever threaten to quit? I'm afraid she does. Now let's again try something else. Why are you so unhappy about your assistant? Well, she always postpones finishing her work. Does she expect to be promoted? I'm afraid she does. Now let's again ask something else. Why are you so unhappy about your assistant? Well, she always resists taking orders. Does she ever refuse to take orders? I'm afraid she does. Now let's again try to say something else using the same conversation. Why are you so unhappy about your assistant? Well, she always puts off typing reports. Does she fail to do her share? I'm afraid she does. Now here are a few sample conversations with conjunctive plus infinitive. Where should I park my car? Didn't Fred show you where to park it? He wasn't sure what to tell me. Then let's ask the guard over there where to put it. Would you explain how to pronounce this word? I thought you already knew how to pronounce it. I did know, but I have forgotten. Well, I hope you remember how to pronounce it next time. Whom should we see to get permission to leave? I think I know whom to speak to. I wonder how we can explain our different situation. I've been wondering how to do it too. Whom are you going to ride to the party with? Mary, because she knows where to go. I didn't realize Mary knew how to drive a car. I think she learned how to drive just recently. Which one of these sweaters are you going to buy? I really don't know which one to choose. In that case, do you want me to tell you what to do? Since I can't decide which to take, I'd appreciate your advice.